The night I found out my fiancé was cheating, I also found out who he was cheating with. And that second part broke me in a way I am still putting into words. It started the way most catastrophic nights do. Quietly. Ordinarily. Ryan had left his phone on the kitchen counter while he showered, and I was not snooping. I want to be clear about that. I was moving it so I could set down the grocery bags I had just carried in from the car. Our wedding was 11 weeks away. I had just picked up fabric swatches for the reception centerpieces. I was happy. I was genuinely, completely happy. The screen lit up as I set the bags down. A preview notification. Just enough text visible before it dimmed again. And I stood there for a second, because my brain refused to process what my eyes had just read. The name at the top of the notification was M. That is what I call my sister. M. It is what our whole family calls her. It is what I have called her since we were 4 years old, and I decided Emma was too many syllables for how much I loved her. The message preview said, and I am going to say this exactly as I remember it because I have replayed it 10,000 times, he has no idea. You are so much better at this than you think you are. I picked up the phone. I know some people would say I should not have. I know some people believe in privacy and trust and giving the benefit of the doubt. But something in my chest had already caved in, the way a floor gives out before you even hear the crack. I picked it up and I opened the thread. I read for 6 minutes. I know because I checked the time when I started and I checked it again when I finally put the phone back down on the counter. 6 minutes. That is how long it took for my entire life to rearrange itself into something I did not recognize. They had been texting for 4 months. 4 months of messages that started careful and coded and then stopped bothering to hide anything at all. Messages about meeting up when I was at work. Messages about how Ryan felt trapped. Messages where my sister, my identical twin, the person who had stood beside me at every important moment of my life, told my fiancé that she had always understood him better than I ever could. There was a message where Ryan called me predictable. There was a message where Emma said, and I am going to read this one word for word because it is burned into me, Kara always lands on her feet. She will be fine. She will be fine. I stood in my kitchen with fabric swatches on the counter and I read my sister tell my fiancé that I would be fine. Like I was a minor inconvenience. Like I was a problem they were working around instead of a person they were destroying. I did not cry right away. I think I was too far past crying for that. I just stood there and I breathed and I looked around the kitchen of the apartment Ryan and I had chosen together, with the coffee mugs we had picked out together and the calendar on the wall with our wedding date circled in red marker, and I felt the ground underneath me turn to water. Ryan came out of the shower 20 minutes later in a cloud of steam, towel around his waist, smiling at me like nothing in the world was wrong. And I smiled back. I do not know how I did it. But I smiled back. Because in those 20 minutes alone in that kitchen, something had shifted in me. The part of me that wanted to collapse had stepped aside for something quieter and colder and much, much more focused. I did not confront him that night. I did not call Emma screaming. I did not throw the fabric swatches in the trash or rip the calendar off the wall. I took screenshots of every single message in that thread. All 4 months of them. I sent them to my own email from Ryan's phone while he was in the bedroom getting dressed. And then I put the phone back exactly where he had left it. And then I went to the bedroom and I asked him how his day was. But here is what I did not know yet. The affair was not even the worst part. Not even close. Because buried in those messages, in a thread I had only skimmed in my shock, was a reference to something else entirely. Something involving my grandmother. Something involving documents. Something that would not fully make sense to me until 2 days later, when I started pulling the thread and the whole thing unraveled into something so much darker than a cheating fiancé. I thought I had found the bottom of it that night. I had no idea I was still standing at the top. Stay tuned for the next part.